Welcome to the Ephesiology Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the study of the early Christian movement and its implications for the church today. Today we are with Michael, our resident ephesiologist. I'm Andrew Johnson in Houston, Texas, and it is a true honor to have Dr. Ben Mitchell with us. See, Ben Mitchell is a professor of ethics and an author who has served most recently for more than a decade as the Graves Chair of Moral Philosophy at Union University, where he's also served 3 years as Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs and Special Assistant to the President. Now, prior to that, he taught ethics, including bioethics and contemporary culture, for a decade at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School in Deerfield, and that is where I know him from. He served there for 3 years at the Center of Bioethics and Human Dignity. Now, in addition to his academic work, Dr. Mitchell also consults on matters of public policy and has given testimonies before policymaking groups, including the U.S. House of Representatives, Institutes of Medicine, and the Illinois Senate. He is the author of How Do We Live in a Digital World? He is co-editing a series of ethics volumes for B&H Academic called the Ethics Essentials series, and his volume, Bioethics and Medicine, a short companion. It's due to be released in September of this year. So Dr. Mitchell, thank you so much for being with us on the Ephesiology Podcast.
It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Well, we're so glad for this, Ben. I've been looking forward to this because it has been quite a long time since you and I have seen each other back in the Trinity days. And I think we could, these days at least, we might even be able to say the good old days when we talk about Trinity. But Dr. Mitchell and I served together on the Trinity Graduate School's Academic Council, where he, I hope willingly, allowed me to teach one of his classes, The Foundations of Cultural Engagement. I don't know if you remember that or not, Ben.
I do.
Those were fun times.
It was a great program. That program on culture and cultural engagement was a great program, I thought.
You know what? Many thought that, but some others didn't. But that's a different story. But what's exciting about all of this, I think, as I was reflecting on it this morning, is that time for me as an academic, and back then I was a young academic, a lot more hair, a lot less gray, fewer wrinkles for sure. But it was so formative to be able to learn from you as an ethicist, but also as a senior faculty person. And then just to watch you and your passion for cultural engagement. And it's been a joy to watch that over the years as well. And I couldn't think of anybody more qualified to come on and talk about the subject we're talking about today than you.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm clearly and honestly passionate about engaging our culture, so much so that I could easily be called unfocused because I have so many different interests. If I go in a bookstore, you'll remember what a bookstore was, I'm sure. But if I
think they have pages.
Real book.
Okay.
If I were to go in a bookstore, the question wouldn't be which section will I go to, but which section will I go to first is the only question. Just so interested. I like to call it intellectually gregarious. That sounds better than that. But thank you for I'm grateful for this reunion. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it sure is.
Okay, so we decided to bring in heavy hitters to talk about some of the things that are biggest in our culture right now. And that is the topic of AI and ethics. Was it yesterday, huge New York Times piece about AI and specifically its use in the classroom. And what does it look like for students to be utilizing AI, but also to continue learning? So, Dr. Mitchell, we brought you on, and can you give us kind of maybe an overview of the topic of AI not just as a scientific thing or a technological thing, but why we would even be talking about it on a Christian podcast.
Sure. And then I'd love to kind of give you a real live case study
Yeah.
about at some point. But so AI is everywhere. We're using it, whether we know it or not. When we have that little pesky autocomplete on our phones or in our word processors, that's AI. That's artificial intelligence, and it has several different levels, and we are just at the tip of the iceberg, as it were, of the levels that are being forecast for artificial intelligence. That first level is the level I just mentioned when we're talking about artificial intelligence that is sometimes just called reactive, where you type in something and the algorithm reaches for the average number of times somebody types your word and the way that word is completed, and it offers you the completion whether you want it or not, and then you have to go back and fix it if that's not in fact the word that you wanted. I was on a website today where I was talking with a chat bot, and I would ask it questions, and it would respond as if it were a person, and that's the kind of reactive AI. There's another level of AI that's now making its way increasingly into our culture, and that's what's sometimes called limited memory AI, artificial intelligence that is able to learn and develop a memory, if you will, and self-driving cars is an example of that. So self-driving car or our Roomba robots, vacuum cleaners, have that kind of memory where they can go into a space and remember, as it were, remember the obstacles in the way, and then when you send it out to do its task, whether it's take someone from the hotel to the airport or vacuum your living room, the AI works on memory. So self-driving cars, that kind of thing. Chatbots is another example. Not autocomplete is the machine. Limited memory is the chatbot kind of technology.
Is that where we're getting into the generative as well, the large
Yeah.
language models that
Yes. Large language models, ChatGPT, Grok, all those kinds of technologies that we're using now in classrooms and other spaces are like that. And then the next level, and this is being developed, is a type of AI that mimics human emotions and mimics human consciousness. And it's being used now, for instance, in senior adult living homes, assisted living homes, where they have a little robot named Peril, who is a seal, SEAL. He looks like the mammal, the seal that is held in a person's arms, if they wish, and it becomes a companion animal. Excuse me, and it reacts as like an animal would react under most circumstances, and it not only are those being used, but Japan, for instance, used robots in a hospital setting, care bots in a hospital setting, to attend to patients. It turned out to be a disaster, and I can talk about why, but they're not using those in that capacity any longer. But another medical use of AI is in imaging, so X-rays and MRIs, because the artificial intelligent robot, if you will, the computer program, can go through more images, X-rays, MRIs than a human being can in any relevant amount of time, and can detect very, very small differences in those images that would take a human being much more time to kind of sort out and interpret. And so radiology is using AI in a pretty powerful and useful way in finding tumors that it might take even a really good diagnostician might take a long time to sort out. So and then the final stage of AI, and it could actually be the final one. Some are arguing is
We've seen this movie play out, but yes,
sorry.
we've seen this movie play out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yes.
The super intelligent AI. So the AI that can learn and that develops at least what we would call a form of consciousness, but then becomes autonomous. It becomes self-directing. It no longer needs us, is no longer going to play with us, might even find, I mean, some are suggesting, might even find us a burden because we're so clunky and usually can only do one thing at one time, whereas the robot is going to be potentially very powerful and may even replace us. So that's long term. There are people who are hoping that might be the case, that we can develop these self-aware autonomous robots, but that's yet to be seen. So,
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds science fiction,
right.
but what you're saying is that this is getting close to potential reality.
Well, I mean, people are working on it, and
Yeah.
if you read about AI, or I've been going to our local university for some luncheon conversations about AI in the university setting, and almost every discussion is triumphalistic.
Mm.
Look what we're doing. Look what this can help us with. Look how we can capitalize literally on this. We can make a fortune on this if we get there first.
Mm.
Well, I heard a business person say AI is not going to replace jobs, uh, except for those who don't know how to use AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on the other hand, I read a comment by a robotics professor. It's important to know that this is a person who is working in the field, a
Right.
robotics professor who said that he's at a university in the UK, who said that yes, AI is going to create a lot of jobs, but they're going to be crap jobs.
Mm.
Those are his words.
Mm.
So we don't know where this is going, but we do know that it's moving quickly, and that our ethical reflection, our thinking about the potential good and potential problems, is not keeping up with the development of the technology itself, or
Wow.
technologies. It's multi-form. So
Wow.
so
Well, it,
it's important we think about this, and it comes home. I mean, it comes right into the palm of our hand with
yeah.
our smartphone, or our cars now that tell us when we're getting to the edge of the road, and all those things. So we're living in an AI world. The question is, will this make the world better, or will it diminish
Yeah. Wow.
our flourishing in the world?
Well, I'm curious, Ben, because this is getting to the meat of what we're talking about here, and why we wanted to have you on. But what are you seeing as some of the positive applications of AI currently and potentially? But also, where might we be a little naive and potentially overlooking some of the negative AI issues?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michael. Thank you. I think in most cases, both of those, and maybe even more, but at least both of those poles are present. So, for
Mm.
instance,
Exactly.
although I want to come back later, let's talk about whether technologies of any sort are value neutral. But
Hmm. Hmm.
let's not muddy those waters yet. So so on the one hand, uh, a a device like ChatGPT, a large language model. The way it works is we have put all this information out in the internet, books and magazines and journals and things that we have, your podcasts, all those things are out there in that vast neural network we call the internet. And when you ask ChatGPT a question, what is the weather today? What's the weather forecast today? It goes out and scrapes, the language is used, it scrapes the internet for the information that it needs, and then is able to articulate an answer to your question in language that is grammatically correct most of the time, and will offer you an answer to your question. And you can ask it a question like, what is today's weather forecast? Or you can ask it a question like, can you give me an argument against Friedrich Nietzsche's worldview in the language of Don Carson, one of our former colleagues at Trinity. And the ChatGPT will do a pretty decent job at doing that. So I mean, it's just making the gathering of information and then the framing of information much faster and more efficient than it would if you and I just sat down and did a search, a Google search for that kind of information. We might be able to do it, but we couldn't do it in a matter of seconds like ChatGPT can do. Now, so that's potentially good. I mean, to be able to gather information that efficiently is a good thing. But the problem, there are multiple problems associated with that, and one of them is that sometimes in thinking about something, maybe not like the weather forecast, but thinking about an argument or getting information about a particular historical event, or trying to keep up with a certain new development in the sciences. Sometimes getting the answer is not the only end in view. Sometimes it's working through the problem carefully that is part of what we gain from the process. So for instance, when I remember when I was learning math as a child, and then later in high school doing math problems, one of the benefits of doing the problem was not just getting the answer, which is what I really wanted, but it was learning how math works.
Right. You got to show your work. You
Yeah,
get
exactly.
extra points if you can show your work.
And so in the same way that a calculator is not a bad thing, if you know how math works. So ChatGPT might not be a bad tool, if you will, if you know how language works and how to make an argument, and if you're able to discern when ChatGPT or other large language models give you wrong information, because
That's
there's a
huge.
lot of wrong information out there, right? And two, we know that these large language models often commit what are called hallucinations. They make up information. Famous case of a law professor, a lawyer, not a law professor, but a lawyer who wrote his legal briefs and submits them to the court. And they found out that in those and he used ChatGPT to do it. They found out in those legal briefs there were cases cited that had never occurred in the law. So it just made up, or journal articles that were just made up. So you have to know how language works, arguments work, and know enough about literature to know if and when a hallucination has taken place.
Yeah, and I think that's a very, very massive issue. Two things. One, they're divergent thoughts. So I'm trying to figure out which path I want to go down. There was a writer recently who was furious, and she had essentially continued to write and build her career standing against the lie that the Civil War was fought over states' rights. And she was trying to make it very clear it was about slavery. And she had spent her career writing about the fact that no, that was a lie to cover over the past and to make it seem all shiny and nice for the South. But the reality was it was about slavery. And the chatbots had attributed to her the argument of states' rights and then were multiplying it. And she was furious because she just said, this is my life's work to argue point A. And this chatbot is saying point B. And somebody's going to cite it and say, well, that's what the chatbot said. It's fine. And so now her name and her work is dragged through the mud.
That's what they're the worst. They're going to say that's what she said.
Exactly.
Is what the chatbot said. They're probably not going to own up to the fact they got it from the chatbot until they get called on the carpet for it. You know.
So and then I think human. Yeah,
sorry, Michael, you first.
I was just going to say, because what you're saying, it sounds like to me, Ben, what you're saying is that the human that's inputting needs to still be a human that can think critically, can think concisely, can think logically, can think ethically even, to be able to discern whether or not the information that the generative AI is producing is in fact accurate.
That's right. You have to keep, as someone has said, you have to keep a human in the loop. And let me go to my real life case study, because this will illustrate it. So I have a friend here in my city who works in a large energy company. And his company requires right now that he use ChatGPT in his job. He's a Christian, and because he's a Christian, he has certain moral values that are important to him. And the first one that he encountered, he said, I don't know if I can stay in this job because first, he said, we're told we have to use ChatGPT on the job to write our reports. And he said, we know. And every author knows now that has published work, we know that ChatGPT or other products, all other large language models, use unattributed copyrighted material without attribution. So it's a violation of intellectual property rights, but we've allowed it so far in our culture. There are court cases, but they haven't been tried yet. But we've allowed that in our culture, and so we are using other people's intellectual property without attribution, which is a violation.
It's plagiarism
of their their
stealing
their copyright protection. So he said that's the first problem I have, that I know that I'm now using, and I can't tell you whether I'm using their work or not. It's just scraping all that information and putting it in the output. He said, secondly, he said the problem of hallucinations. He said, I know when I draw up a large book-sized kind of report and I churn some data, he said, I know that there's a possibility that I could be introducing a hallucination through the chatbot's use. I could be introducing a hallucination into the data and into the book, and then that's going to have a downstream effect, which might even mean another generation of that kind of material carrying on that hallucination.
It repeats the hallucination.
And so am I complicit in that? And he said, thirdly, he said, I know that I'm doing work now using this efficient model. Scare quotes on efficiency. Well, I want to talk more about that. Using this efficient model that's eventually going to replace people in my company, because the robot is going to be able to do it. The chatbot is going to be able to do it much faster than a human being could do it. So he said, I'm worried that I'm displacing future employees in their work. So how do you? I mean, that's this guy's life every day, and he's trying to be a faithful follower of Jesus, and yet he is told that he has to use this tool. What does he do? How does he remain integrated as a human being when he's being pulled apart by this technology
Hmm.
and its use in the workplace. So this is where we live. And if you are a conscientious human being, Christian or not, if you're a conscientious human being, these sorts of things should be troubling to you, and we can't be blind to the downside of the technology, even while we celebrate the benefits of the technology, the efficiency.
So, do you think, is it accurate then, Ben, that what we're seeing is the potential for the change of reality or truth in these generative actions?
Oh yeah, that's a nice way to put it. I think that we are shifting our judgment from our own perception and our own thinking, and we're shifting that to a tool that could help us in some ways, but not if we trust it blindly. If we trust it without realizing its pitfalls.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Well,
And
okay,
by the
so
way,
this is
I mean, and we're just talking about words on a page right now.
Right.
But
Mhm.
everybody knows that art, visual arts, images, all those areas of media, all those different types of media are now being affected by AI. And some people are suggesting this is a great thing for art and the art world, and others are saying, this is an art. This is not even a chimpanzee drawing. This is
Right.
a machine drawing. So
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a little passionate about this. I argue with Michael offline often about this. So one, something that it's fascinating to me on how it has taken hold in the culture, and we've already used it here on this podcast. We see it everywhere. We attribute when the information that the machine gives that is inaccurate as hallucinations. We personify
yep,
the machine.
yep, yep.
Humans can hallucinate. Machines cannot hallucinate. And yet we attribute personal qualities to a machine in how we discuss it. We are normalizing the idea that this machine is person-like.
Yeah.
We
I
are
think it's a great point, Andrew. I mean, look, someone has said a long time ago about many other things. The person who wins the language game wins the battle.
Mhm.
And I think you're exactly right. Even to say things like this technology can think.
Right.
The technology doesn't think. The
No, it
technology
does not.
is using an algorithm. It's using a mathematical probability um, uh, model to scrape the internet. It's not thinking. If it ever starts thinking, we might be in trouble.
Hmm.
But it's not thinking, and so we should be careful about our language. I think not the big word is not anthropomorphize
Yes.
the tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And only, again, I joked, we've seen this movie play out. We can reference T2, all the different versions of Arnold that we have had in the Terminator movies. We can even go, Alex Garland's Ex Machina is an excellent film. For those who want to watch it, just go and see the reviews. There might be some things towards the end of the movie you don't want to see, but I am just saying it is an excellent movie that is dealing with this very real thing, the difference between what is natural and what is machine. The thing that actually frustrates me in our conversation and how we make a way forward, it is that idea around just because we can doesn't mean we should. And I think we are being blinded by the can. the potential of what is happening, and we are not paying enough attention to the should, or the downstream effect, just like you were bringing up, literally as a cast off at the end, just kind of like, oh, and yeah, also art. Like, that's a huge deal.
Yep.
Entire industries are about to be wiped out if we continue down the road of can, about potential. And yes, if you go to the Dolly ChatGPT like thing, and you punch out an image, and if you're not paying attention, your characters can have 6 and 8 fingers per hand, and there's 3 moons in the background. It has a sheen to it. It looks kind of pretty, but it also is not right. The reality is that's where it is now. It probably will churn out stuff that is looking more and more like art that somebody would do. And as people turn to that, they cease turning to actual artists who can think through and do the thing. And we are all complicit when we jump to those things to try to give ourselves just a real quick image for our article that we want to write, or for our blog post, or for something. And we are cutting out people who would actually have done the work. We're literally going down that path of can. We are not thinking about the should. And I think there are consequences of that.
Yeah, so that's so helpful. Let me unpack a couple of things that are implications of what you're saying, and I couldn't agree more. One is that we in the West, and Americans in particular, tend to be what Quentin Schultz, a communications specialist, has said. We are unreflective early adopters. In other words, when we are offered a shiny new piece of technology, we just go out and get it. We stand in line around the Apple store until it comes out, and then it's not until later that we find out that maybe this technology has a downside. Maybe it's addictive. Maybe it's not just that we form our technologies, but they form us. And we are unreflective early adopters. Secondly, you use the term, Andrew, quick. Efficiency is the trump for everything in our worldview, the Western worldview. Efficiency means I can do more faster. And that's
Right.
what this technology offers us. I can do more faster. The question we have to ask ourselves is, or one question we have to ask ourselves is, do we want to measure everything in our lives, every aspect of our lives, by efficiency? And I'll give you an example. My wife and I are about to go on a trip for our 50th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's all because of her patience, I assure you. But we're about to go on our 50th wedding anniversary trip, and if we're sitting down, and we're going to see a friend of ours, Michael and Andrew. I won't mention his full name, but his last name's Cameron. That you'll remember. But anyway, we're gonna see our friend in Europe, and if we're sitting down at our anniversary dinner, my wife looks over at me and she says, Ben, you've been the most efficient husband a woman could want. What does that mean? Is that how we measure? Is that how we measure the value of a husband or wife in terms of efficiency? No. And now there might be some things that I could be more efficient at, doing chores or tasks, but efficiency isn't the way we measure relationships, or not the way we ought to measure relationships. Or if your child said, "Dad, you're the most efficient father a boy could want," what is that?
Right? Isn't that endearing?
Is that a put down? What does that mean? So I think we need to develop, all of us, but I think this is a burden that Christians bear as well. we need to develop a set of criteria for adopting new technologies and not just take the next thing that comes down the pike, just because it's there. We have to ask those questions. Just because we can, should we? Is efficiency the trump for everything else? What about the downstream consequences? All those kinds of questions. And it's interesting, they take a lot of abuse sometimes in our culture, but the Amish are onto something here, because the Amish are not, contrary to popular myth, they are not anti-technology. They don't dig their crops with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
The Amish, generally speaking, the Amish have a set of criteria. They call the something like their criteria their form of life. In other words, how do we want to inhabit the world? What do we want our lives to look like? What do we want? What do we want families to be like? What do we want our work to look like? What do we want our leisure to look like? And so they have this sense of a form of life. And then they judge different technologies based on whether they contribute to their form of life or whether they detract from their form of life. And so, yeah, they do use technologies. They have plows and they have wagons, and some of them even have a cell phone in the community, that kind of thing. But they're careful. They're not unreflective adopters. They are reflective decision makers about their technology. And we could do that if we had a mind to do it. If we had, that is to say, if we wanted to do that, we could do that in our personal lives. And by the way, there is some of that happening. We have the smartphones. There's now a dumb phone. It has very, very simple operations, and it doesn't give you access to the internet, and it's limited in its different tools that are part of it. And some people are now going back to the dumb phone because they can't escape otherwise the addiction of the smartphone.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I think part of something that I want to at least bring into the conversation, we're titling this series, Christ in Your Context. The whole idea around what you just laid out, I want to maybe phrase it this way. We are human. We are God's creation. We were created in the image of God. And I want to at least think through, how are we approaching AI that is reflecting and honoring God's image in us? And in what ways are we actually utilizing AI that is working against what God has given us, what He has called us to? Obviously, again, I was a little passionate earlier, but that whole idea of the arts. God is the creator. He is creative. He makes things. He brings things to life. And as we create, as we make, we write, we think through some of these things, we reflect God's image in that. We are creating like He created. We have been made for this. And it just seems that so many of these things potentially, right, down the path of we're cutting off aspects of God's image in us. Am I going too far in that, Michael? Am I going too far in that, Ben?
Michael?
Well, let's ask the ethicist.
Well, I think your question is a big question that impacts a lot of our technology / art. That affects everything that we talk about when we talk about the transcendentals, the true, the good, the beautiful. And so we are made in God's image, as you said, Andrew, and part of our charge, our responsibility, is to be creatives ourselves. We are to have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air. That is a stewardship over, not a hand, iron-fisted
Right.
But we're to be stewards over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, over every living thing that creeps on the earth, according to Genesis 1. And I don't have any reason to think that our first parents only worked with their bare hands.
Right.
They were tool makers as well. And if you read the early chapters of Genesis, you see tool makers, weapon makers. You see human beings who are using their creative capacity. And then when you get to the ark and to the temple,
Mm-hmm.
God giving very detailed instructions about how to build engineering and artistic kinds of instruction. Yeah, we are meant to, but we're not just. That is, we're not only creatives, we're also persons. To be made in
Mm-hmm.
the image of God is to be made a person. We used to sing a song, a hymn, that mentioned God in three persons, Blessed Trinity. And we are persons. And I worry that in many ways we are becoming depersonalized by our technology mediating all of our relationships. Now, I'm grateful for Zoom. I'm grateful we have this opportunity to do this. But this is a very different medium than if we were sitting down having a cup of coffee together,
Absolutely.
where we could read body language. I would know, a lot about how your last couple of days have gone just by reading your face and your energy level and all those things. So it's a very different. So I think we have to find ways to preserve our humanity while being creative and while being relational as persons. And I think we're going to have to we're going to have to be very I hate to keep using the word reflective, very thoughtful, full of thought about how we're using technologies, and as I said earlier, and the way those technologies are forming or malforming us.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do. And what does my friend do when his workplace says you must use this tool? How does he deal with it? I'll give you one other example.
Yeah.
I was in a conference this last September, and one of the pastors in this conference said that he grew up in a home. It's hard to remember this, but he grew up in a home where there was one telephone, and it hung on the wall.
That's right.
And if you were wanting to make a call or receive a call, you had to get up from what you're doing and you had to go to that telephone and either make the call or receive the call. And he said he had become so convicted about his addiction to his smartphone that his practice now is to come in every night and put it on a shelf. And he does not use his smartphone unless he gets a call or needs to make a call. So he's disciplining his mind and his behavior in a way that he thinks will help him spend more time with his children and spend more time with his wife and spend more time reading or whatever else he wants to do, rather than what do we call it? Death scrolling? What's the term for that? Where you're just scrolling on the
doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Doom scrolling.
So
Yeah.
wow. So I think those kind of strategies are helpful, and when it comes to AI, we're going to have to look at these technologies, whether it's ChatGPT or other kinds of other tools, and say, okay, it's a tool in my toolbox.
Right.
I don't wear it in my glasses. That is, it's not part of me. So I know when to put it in the toolbox and when to take it out, not let it become embedded in my imagination in that way.
Yeah. Ben, you're hitting on something. So there's a book, I highly recommend it. It's called How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Yeah.
By Catherine Price. a simple suggestion she has, which is what you were just touching on. She literally says, if you have your smartphone, and I'm speaking in Apple terms, so do not judge me, Android users, but you can set up multiple home screens, and she recommends putting everything that is a tool, like truly like a utility, on one screen, and then putting everything that's like social media or a time suck on a different screen, so that you can get on your phone and not feel ashamed for being on your phone when you are on the tool screen. You are literally going there for the calculator. You're going there for your calendar, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the physical motion of swiping over to the time suck screen should be a reminder to you, I am choosing to be on my phone for something that is going to keep me here and is designed to suck me in longer. And so that you can at least do the work if you just need to use your phone for work. That's just a simple suggestion.
Yeah,
Now,
here's the AI connection too. Not only is it meant to suck you in and keep you busy, but it's then going. This is what the AI tool does now. Then it's going to market to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
On your feed. It's going to market things to you that you don't need and never thought you wanted, but are going to be tempted then to buy because they know, that is, the marketing agencies know how these tools work and how they prompt people to do compulsive purchases.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Megan and I, we laugh because sometimes she gets bored of her own phone and she'll take my phone. And she said, your friends are more interesting, right? So she'll get on my phone and see what are happening in the world and the lives of my friends. But inevitably, if she has my phone, maybe something pops into her mind and she looks it up. So the next time I'm on my phone, I'm getting advertised about plants
Right.
Right.
and
Right.
about dirt.
Or
And I'm
women's
like, Meg,
shoes or something.
you
Yeah.
you stop looking for junk on my phone, because you're polluting what is advertising to me, which is actually probably just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things, at least in my mind, Ben, we've used the words, and even having a conversation that says slow down, it doesn't mean we're against efficiency. It doesn't mean we're against progress, and it doesn't mean we're against improvement.
Right.
But we don't want to make those the gods that we serve, to chase after and not ask the slowing down questions. What am I losing if I continue to go down this road?
Yeah. Yeah. And I, we talked about language earlier. I've stopped using, I try to discipline myself not to use the word technological advance anymore, because that carries a lot of baggage. Is this really an advance? So I just talk about technological development.
Right.
This is a new development, but it's not. It may or may not be an advance. That we may not know for some time. By the way, another good book on this topic about slowing down and about handling media technologies is Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism. It's a nice treatment of some of the themes we've been talking about.
Yeah. Well, it sounds
I'll
like,
have to
Ben,
add
that. Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, your description of some of your interactions with people and the disciplines that they're trying to develop, it sounds like that we're in further danger of really a fragmentation of society, relationships, and so on. How, as an ethicist, as you're thinking about these things, what are some safeguards? How do we adjust to the reality that we're in today?
Yeah, it's a great question that we all should think about. What strategies can we use to stay human,
Yeah.
and not become disintegrated by the technology? And I've mentioned a couple of the things that come to my mind, and one is to reject efficiency as the trump. While I agree, Andrew, there are certain things we want to do efficiently. I don't want to dig a hole with my hands, or a shovel even, that I could use a post hole digger to do. It's a pretty good technology. It's been used quite well. Although if my job is not just digging a post hole, but you mentioned plants, but if it's also assessing the health of the soil in the flower bed, then maybe the post hole digger is not going to help me do that as well as working with my hands and being
Right.
down in the dirt. So we need to think about that. I think we have to reject the uncritical adoptionism, the unreflective, uncritical adoptionism of technology. Think about the way we want to inhabit the world. That is, how do we want to live in the world? Do we want to be driven by the technology, or are we going to use AI to accomplish things that are good, and maybe done more efficiently, and then reject it, or go around that AI technology when we think it detracts from our form of life. But we're going to have to decide how we want to live, how we want to inhabit the world. I I'll never forget this image because it was so etched in my mind. But I'm sitting in a restaurant in the other part of the state that I live in, and an elderly woman comes in, and behind her is maybe a 7-year-old to 9-year-old child, and
Mm-hmm.
he's on his phone. He's on a device, and while they order, he's on the device. While they eat, he's watching the phone. They get up, and the what I take to be maybe his grandmother leaves the restaurant, and he follows her like a little puppy dog with his phone in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, here's an opportunity for intergenerational
Yeah.
love and memories, and all of the things that we get from being around people who are older, or older people who get from people who are younger, and it's now missed because of our technology. Is that how we want to inhabit the world? Um, and every time you go out somewhere, you can see people sitting around looking at their phones rather than having a conversation. So, do we need a basket on the table? We drop our technology, whatever it is, in the basket while we're having dinner. How do we protect that form of life? How do we cultivate? How do we cultivate our practices? Here's what I mean. So, Jamie Smith and others have pointed out that there are a couple of different ways we learn the Christian worldview, if you will. One is we learn it just didactically. We teach it.
Right.
So we would say one way to know what a family is that God made our first parents, and he gave them offspring, and that's the family. And the family then is the model for the city and the government. And the way we kind of teach what a family is and what its implications are. But you don't teach a toddler what a family is by quoting Bible verses to him or her. You teach a toddler what a family is by inviting them into the relationships of the family, and inviting them into the liturgy of the family, the practices, the behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
the waking up and the going to bed and everything in between. You invite them into the liturgies of the family, because in the practice of the liturgies, we also develop our worldview, not just through didactics, but also through practices, or what we would call the formation of habits and formation of imaginations. And every athlete knows this. The reason that a batter in baseball gets in a batting cage and hits the ball 100 times is not because he or she doesn't know the physics of a hard object hitting another object, and it ricocheting off of it. It's not a physics question. It's developing muscle memory, so that every time they hit the ball, they hit the ball accurately, and every movement of their body emphasizes how both how important it is and how one actually hits that ball. Well, we have a spiritual or human intellectual imaginative muscle memory as well. And we have to develop that, and the technologies have to be subject to that, not the ones that dictate our practices, our behaviors. So adjust our technologies around our use of our technologies around those values, and remember. I think this is so hard for us in our day, but to remember that we are embodied creatures. And
Yes.
as embodied creatures made in the image of God. And by the way, the exemplar of an embodied human being is Jesus, right?
Amen.
Jesus, the God man, Jesus had a body, still has a body, resurrection body, but Jesus had a body, a human body, and he experienced all the limitations of our human body. And we're tempted to think, in fact, go to a dictionary and look up, I mean, a real dictionary, not just on your screen.
Yep. Still that paper.
Look up the word limitation, and almost every connotation of limitation is bad. But I'm glad I'm limited by my body. For one thing, I wouldn't want blood just
Yes.
falling on the floor. But also, my body reminds me that there's only so many hours in a day, and that I can't keep going at all hours of the night. My body, those limitations remind me of that. That's not a curse. Pain is not by itself a curse. There are conditions like leprosy where the problem is that one's appendages become numb to pain, and so you cut yourself, you burn yourself, and then you get infections, and you don't even know that your body is gangrenous now because there's no pain. Pain can be a gift, not just something we suffer from, and it could go on and on and on. And so I think our technology tempts us to live a disembodied life, and we have to work hard to remember that our embodiment and our finitude is not a curse, but a gift. Kelly Kapic has a wonderful book called "You're Only Human," and he unpacks some of those ideas around our embodiment that I think we need to relearn. So those are some of the strategies that I would use. And then, then there are those practical things like sticking my phone on a shelf instead of having it sitting beside my chair, so that I'm tempted to keep going back to it.
Yeah, those are good, Ben. This has been great. This has been very helpful, Ben.
Well, I don't know how much we've really dealt with AI, but everything we talked about has AI embedded in it in one way or another. So
yeah. Well, this.
Can I mention one other book while
Absolutely.
So there's a Lutheran pastor and a Orthodox, capital O Orthodox theologian and blogger even, who have written this book, Are We All Cyborgs Now? By Robin Phillips and Joshua Pauling. And it is a wonderfully encyclopedic volume about, and has, encyclopedia doesn't mean dry in this case, it just means it covers a lot of territory about digital technologies, including AI and other technologies, and art. Their last chapter or section is From Pencils to Pixels, the battle for the future of education and art. And so I recommend that book. It hasn't been out 6 months yet, maybe 8 months. It's really helpful. Are We All Cyborgs Now? ? Not available on Kindle.
Okay, that's actually hilarious. That's putting your money where your mouth is. That's right there.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Mitchell, thank you so much for being our guest today. Even though we didn't go as deep into AI as we all thought we might have, I think we did more than scratch the surface. And I think we've at least been able to investigate some of the things around this for us and for our listeners to be able to have some handles as we go out into the world. So thank you for helping guide us in that way. We also want to thank you, listeners. I hope this was a helpful podcast. I hope that you're able to grapple anew with some things that are in your life. And if you, as you are grappling, if there are topics that are coming up and you want to have more information or more conversation around it, I really would invite you, check out our podcast catalog. We may have covered some of that. We may have talked to some experts on that topic, and you might be able to get a leg up in your research or even asking that question, how it applies to your life. We here at Ephesiology want to resource and equip you for what God is calling you towards and how he has gifted you to already be his presence in this world. So go to masterclasses.ephesiology.com and see how we can come alongside you for that equipping. So from Michael, for Dr. Mitchell and myself, thank you for joining us today on the Ephesiology Podcast.